And happy St. Patrick's Day 2015. It's the MLB This Week Show. On this edition, we'll be talking about the designated hitter possibly coming to the National League, and the Panda ends up in a huff. All on this edition of MLB This Week podcast. And hello, everyone. My name is Rich, and welcome to MLB This Week podcast. It's the weekly show talking all about baseball. Joined here with my good buddy from across New York, Mr. Gary Mack.
Hi, Rich. How are you this evening?
All right, Gary, and happy St. Patty's to you already.
Happy St. Patrick's to you, too. I forgot to wear anything green. And
yeah, it was a last-minute thing for me. It's kind of dark in my little studio here, but I do have the old green on if you're watching the podcast on YouTube. Always one of my favorite holidays of the year, Gary.
Yeah, certainly a great time of the year, and it's the opening salvo to spring as we get even closer, and baseball.
Yes, baseball, and all the teams will be wearing their green hats, jerseys, all kinds of green all over the field. Baseball seems to do more and more every year with St. Patty's Day. And I was reading a couple articles from last year and the year before that for St. Patrick's Day, and pretty hilarious articles, Gary. They had a couple teams that only wore green hats, like the Orioles, and teams like that don't even have colors that go with green, but they were basically busting on them like, come on, spring for a jersey to go with the hat. So I think your favorite team, the Mets, had their green full jersey on, as did the Phillies, but some of these teams just don't get St. Patty's Day, I don't think.
Yeah, I guess they figure because it's spring training and it's not that big a deal, but like you said, the Mets do embrace it. They do have green jerseys, have for a number of years, and I think it just kind of, being that it is spring training, it's even better because it kind of kicks it up a notch a little bit, and Mets are going back to a green hat with the orange NY on it. Last year they had the a green hat with an orange bill and a Mr. Met leprechaun on there. So this year quieted down a little bit. Jerseys will probably be pretty much the same, but it's nice when they do it. It's something for the people that go to spring training and they happen to be down there for that. And let's face it, it gives them something else to sell.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, the merchandise and things like that. But one of the better times in baseball, St. Patty's Day coming up, of course, on Tuesday. We're taping the show on Sunday here, March 15th, 2015. We have a whole great show lined up for you. But, Gary, this afternoon I did some reconnaissance for the show. Sat down, had a nice cold beverage and a nice sandwich, and watched a couple games. It was awesome to watch nice, warm baseball in March.
Isn't it nice to see that sunshine and people walking around in shorts and flip-flops? And my tongue was hanging out yesterday watching the Mets. They weren't televised today, but they were on yesterday. And, God, I wish I was down there. And I think it was 85 degrees, they said. And it's still a little nasty up here, a little chilly today, but I guess we're inching towards that slowly but surely.
Yes, we are, and we're doing the podcast here live on YouTube, so if you want to check it out, go on to YouTube or just go right over to our site, MLBThisWeek.com. You can also subscribe to the show. There should be a area right on the video where you can click the link to subscribe to the show. You'll be getting all of our latest videos that we do on MLB This Week. And, of course, you can listen to the podcast on several different locations throughout the Internet. iTunes, of course, the biggest one. followed up with Stitcher Radio, and also baseballtalkradio.com. So always a reason to tune in and give a listen to the show. We really appreciate it.
Certainly do.
And Gary, you have one of our top stories of the week here. And when I read the story, I was almost dreading it.
Yeah, yes, Rich. It gave me nausea when I read this, an article in Sporting News. The author was Jesse Spector, and he writes that it's inevitable that the DH will come to the National League. In fact, he says it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, and more than that, it's a matter of how. The Tony Clark, the Players Union chief, has not brought it up, but he is in favor of bringing it up to discuss it. And you know what? Now that I look back at this whole thing, and I really think this whole even schedule and moving Houston, this was all the groundwork for this. Because now they're going to use that as an excuse that if a contending team is playing a team from the other league in September, it could hurt their chances or it could help some other team's chances, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm really beginning to think that this whole, even that they went with this whole 15 teams in each league and they have to play over each league, I really think it's a setup now. I really believe that they did this to pave the way towards the designated hitter, and I think that's a darn shame, because I think the worst thing that they've done to this sport in the last how many years was the designated hitter. I hate the designated hitter. It's just, to me, it's a contradiction of terms. Because they want to pick up the pace of play, but they want to get more offense. And, I didn't do a study, but I know American League games are running longer than National League games, and that's because of the designated hitter. And the other thing I don't understand, and with all of these injuries, these Tommy John surgeries to the pitchers, why do they want to make it harder on a pitcher by putting another hitter up? The conversation now should be getting rid of the designated hitter in the American League because of the onset of all these Tommy John surgeries and everything else, and a chance to give the pitcher a break. A pitcher never got hurt that I can remember hitting, but tons of them are getting hurt from having to face extra hitters all the time and not having that natural break in a lineup. And that's the key to me, I think. I can't watch an American League game. It's like watching a merry-go-round. It's after the first couple of innings, it just becomes doldrum because there's no break in the lineup. So you don't know when the leadoff hit is coming. To me, when you have a pitcher hit, it's not always exciting, but there is, in a close game, if that pitcher gets a hit, the fans go crazy for that. That's what brings excitement to the game. And you're going to lose all of that with this stupid rule.
Yeah, I agree. We have to go back to 1973 when this rule was first adopted by the National League, or by the American League, I'm sorry. And, of course, the rule allows teams to have one player known as a designated hitter, quote unquote, and he's going to take the place of the pitcher in the batting order. So, if anything, you're going to have some of these aging superstars that can hit a ball a long way have an extra job for a couple years if the National League does get this rule going. I'm opposed to it too. I'm not a big fan of the designated hitter rule. I like to see the pitcher come up to the plate. It does break up a game. It does add a little drama sometimes, and even some pitchers can hit, Gary. We've seen it over the years. Comes to mind the Atlanta Braves from years ago. Those three aces that were on there, Maddox, they all could swing a bat too. Glavine, comes to mind. A couple other pitchers come to mind that, when they come up. Cliff Lee, for example, uh, he's not a feared hitter, but he does get clutch hits now and again. So I think it does add a lot of excitement to the game when the pitcher comes up to bat. It's not always an instant out, but it does. That DH rule just to me seems like it's artificial.
And here's the thing: if he's replacing the pitcher, then he should have batted ninth. That's what they should have made the DH bat ninth to replace the pitcher. But see, they went around the rule and they put them all over the place, and they gave allowed, like you said, an aging slugger. But what's next? I mean, if Big Poppy's leg goes, you're going to get him a designated runner, so all he's got to do is swing a bat? I mean, it's just stupid. Are we heading towards offense and defensive teams? Have 9 guys that hit and 9 guys that play the field. Is that what they want in the future? I mean, it's not baseball to me. I always call the American League a Sunday morning softball beer league because that's what it is. It's a beer league. So they should be playing softball. Next thing you know, they're going to have a short fielder in center. Designated hitter. It's such a ridiculous. And if I had the power to vote for the Hall of Fame, I would never vote for a designated hitter. Now, people are going to make the argument, well, it's a position. No, it's not. It's a half of a position. If it was a position, you'd have to play a position. Hitter is not a position. Fielding is a position. Third base is a position. What are you going to have, let's say they went to 9 hitters and 9 batters. What do you have, a guy 40 years from now going into the Hall of Fame and say, well, he hit 279. He was the greatest number 7 hitter in the history of the game. Is that what baseball wants? It sickens me to think that they could bring this to the National League, and I hope it's not.
Yeah, and of course, I'm looking at the National Baseball Hall of Fame Google Plus page here, and this rule was voted into effect on January 11th, 1973. Major League owners approved, as they call it, one of the game's most controversial rules. And underneath there's a few comments, and most people are against it. So, as you said, it adds an artificialness to the game, doesn't make it seem like it's that compelling anymore when you've got nothing but batters coming up to hit, and the pitcher doesn't get a chance to hit. So, yeah, I'm in complete agreement with you. I hope the National League never does get that designated hitter rule.
And what I don't get, Rich, is that why is it got to be added to the National League, and why there's no talk of repealing it from the American League? That's the way to go. That is really the way to go. And I know this offense, I'm sick and tired of hearing about lack of offense, blah, blah, blah. The Mets scored 13 runs yesterday. It's just, they got all the stats, of course, and the numbers show that the offense is down. But everything is cyclical. What happens when the pitching gets weak again and the offense goes up? Then they're going to be stuck with this stupid rule. And, I know you said there's a lot of people against it, but, I would advocate boycotting games then. The people shouldn't go to the games. And if you do go to the game, a National League game, and they have a designated hit, whenever that designated hit gets up, you should stand up and turn your back and don't watch it. I mean, something like that. I don't know. It's just, obviously it annoys me very much, and I just can't tell you how much I despise this rule. And, God, I just hope that they never go through with this. And it's funny because I was on another show last night. A friend of mine asked me to come on for a brief segment, and one of the other people on the shows, he actually said he never thought there'd be anything that could stop him from watching baseball, but this could come close. And wouldn't that be a shame?
Yes, it would be. And the more baseball changes, sometimes it doesn't necessarily mean for the good. So we'll keep an eye on this story and be reporting on it over the course of the season, I'm sure. And just wanted to introduce our listeners to our Patreon page now. If you're watching the video, you should see a link right to the Patreon page. But if you're not, you can go right to our website. It's MLBThisWeek.com. You can click into the show notes and find the link for supporting this show. We're an independent show. We're not funded by baseball or any teams or anything like that. We rely on donations from you, the listener, and we'd love to have you make a donation so we could do a little bit more with our show. We want to take it to new places, and that takes money. So stop by our Patreon page at patreon.com/MLB This Week.
And Rich, you've got a story about the Panda in Boston, and what is he up to?
Yeah, there was a story about 10 days ago saying Pablo Sandoval does not miss any of his teammates out there in San Francisco. He quoted in an article saying only Bochy is the one he misses. He loves Bosch. He's like my dad. He's the only guy that I will miss. And Hunter Pence, he said. Just those guys. So you got Sandoval here making headlines out there. And a guy named Aubrey Huff, who happened to win a couple championships with Sandoval and the Giants, happened to read this, and he called out Pablo for his comments right on his Facebook page. So here's what Aubrey Huff said about Pablo Sandoval. He said, I'm pretty sure there wasn't a tear shed on behalf of all the players and coaches when he signed in Boston. It's always been about Pablo, exclamation mark. He had the fans fooled, but not the players. One of the biggest reasons he didn't want to come back is because the Giants made him work out on the treadmill every day, exclamation mark. Pretty sure that was a driving force for him. Nevertheless, he could have always been known as a legend in San Fran, but ego will always get in the way when it comes to Pablo. Sorry for the rant. Just want to take up for the players who are now holding their tongues because they don't want to get in the middle of this. So this was a
Wow.
Facebook post that also made the press, and that even stirred up more of a hornet's nest with Sandoval. He of course immediately said Aubrey who to the papers, like you know. But that's what went on. Quite a stir of events there. Of course, a lot of this probably goes on in baseball, but it doesn't make the papers. It doesn't make the press. We don't know how those guys are in the clubhouse, if they're hard to deal with. But Sandoval fired back. You know, he said he was not a tough guy to handle, and he wasn't all about himself. But that's the assertion. Nobody else has weighed in on this yet, but
Man,
it was quite a eye-opening moment for fans of San Francisco and, of course, the new Red Sox fans that have welcomed Sandoval onto the team.
wow, that's amazing stuff. I mean, you wouldn't think that they'd go after each other quite like that, but I'm a little shocked because he always seemed to be such a nice guy and beloved by the fans and everything. And wow, to hear this is really something else.
Yeah, I call it the Panda Diaries in my notes. So we'll have to see if this story takes another twist and turn. But moving on with the show, I've had a few injuries so far in this season we've heard about, but you have yet another one to talk about, Gary.
Well, you know, Rich, we are fans of the NL East. Our teams are in the NL East, and everybody, of course, is picking the Nationals. But the thing is, the Nationals have got some troubles starting the season. They're going to miss Denard Span. He is just had abdominal surgery. He will miss opening day, and they're not sure when he will be back. And they're also missing Jason Worth, who has a shoulder problem, and he may not be there for the beginning of the season. So if you're playing the Nationals early, get them early on. The Mets, I think, have 6 games in April with them. So Mets got to jump on top of the Nationals because they are favored to win the division, and rightfully so. But it's not only, we talk about this every year, Rich. It's not only the Nationals, it's everybody. Mets relief lefty Josh Edgin is decided to have Tommy John surgery after having a sore elbow. So he's going to miss the season. Of course, Yu Darvish is the big name from Texas. He's out for the season with Tommy John surgery again. Pitcher, name escapes me right now, for Toronto, blew out his knee. He'll be lost for the season. So here we are again, Rich, with injuries cropping up and becoming more of a topic. And your own Cliff Lee is going to be, I don't know, he's going to try to pitch through it, I believe.
Yeah, he'll pitch through it till about the second game, then he'll just grab his elbow, walk off the mound, and collect $25 million from the Phillies.
Well,
he's got it all planned out, Carrie.
Well, it's really a shame, though, because he really was probably the one pitcher that could help the rebuilding effort in Philadelphia. And now with a questionable arm and retirement talk, they're going to be hurting for sure. But it's just, there's many more injuries across the board that and these Tommy John and elbow injuries again. Here we are again, year 2, and we're discussing this Tommy John surgery again, and once again James Andrews is getting ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching from doing all of these operations. But I don't know. Again, I wouldn't worry about offense. I worry about getting my pitchers healthy first, because it's going to change, and it'll change quickly.
Yeah, heck of a lot of injuries already affecting baseball. But over in Chicago, our next story, Gary, not yet a household name by any stretch of the imagination, a guy named Chris Bryant, number 2 player, according to several sites, that's supposed to be coming out of AAA and coming up to the majors this year. He's already had a couple home runs for the Cubs. He's been hitting the cover off the ball for Chicago so far. But you would think he would make the team out of spring training. But there's been several reports that the Cubs may be holding back several weeks on bringing this guy, who's currently playing third base, Chris Bryant, up to the majors. He's sort of like the next big thing to come for baseball, but the Cubs want to keep him for an extra year, so they have to limit his amount of games. So that's a big controversy in Chicago right now. Across the Major League Baseball, there's talk of it. Bryce Harper, was commenting on it, and he said it would be a big joke if Chris Bryant does not make the Cubs out of camp. He's been watching some of the games, and he even sent him a tweet to support him. So it's gotten over 1,400 favorites and 1,000 retweets. Bryce Harper supporting Chris Bryant for the Cubs, and says he should make the Cubs right out of camp.
Well, that's that whole super tooth thing, I guess, and it's all about controlling the players now. But it really is a shame if a guy earns a spot and you're hurting your own team. I don't know. I think it is a business, and sometimes you have to consider the business end. But every now and then, you have to look in a different direction, and figure if he's going to help the team and he's going to put fannies in the seats, so you lose that year of control over him. Just try to sign him then.
Yeah, it doesn't. I can't believe that a team would rather mess with the player on the terms of not calling him up to keep him an extra year at a bargain price, quote unquote, if that still exists in baseball. If he's a player that's ready for the major leagues, he should be up on the team. I agree with Bryce Harper on this. It doesn't make sense to do that. I know the Phillies have played that kind of a game in the past, even with Ryan Howard and Chase Utley. They didn't bring them up till they were almost 26 years old.
Yeah, it's and the Mets have done it too, but Mets have done it with pitching, and sometimes you can get away with it with pitching more because of the seasoning aspect. Some pitches just aren't ready, but if a guy's hitting and he can do the job, man, you got to bring him up. It's just good baseball, and you throw the business side out the window for that.
And of course, Bryce Harper might have a business interest in this as well. He shares the same agent as Chris Bryant and Scott Boras, so two guys have a vested interest in playing. Of course, Harper signing a $7.5 million deal on December 15th, a 2-year deal, and he's waiting for his big payday to come down the street as well. So, these baseball players, they're not dumb businessmen.
No, they're not, but Bryce Harper better do a little bit more hitting because so far I don't think he's the superstar that they tried to make him out to be. He's got the commercials and all of that, but I don't think he's really done it on the field to play to his full potential yet. And whether he ever does is another thing.
He's got to walk the walk to go along with the talk.
Cool. Right.
But you have another story about a Washington National in Gio Gonzalez.
Yeah, this must be Washington Nationals week. Wednesday, in an homage to the movie Super Troopers. Now, I never saw this movie, so I don't know what the heck it's all about. But Max Scherzer, I guess he's fitting in right with the Washington Nationals. He challenged Gio Gonzalez to sneak some meows into an in-game interview. Scherzer sat in front of Gonzalez during the interview and helpfully counted up the meows. The reporter Dan Coco managed to carry on with the interview as if nothing unusual was happening, but tossed it back up to the booth with a meow of his own. The Nats broadcast crew speculated that Scherzer had agreed to dig into his $120 million contract and pay Gonzalez $100 for every meow. So I think it was 10 plus meows he snuck into this interview. And again, never saw the movie, never heard of the movie, but apparently this is something that's known in baseball. And it's the wackiness of spring training that all kinds of crazy things go on, the in-game interviews that they do, and guys doing silly things, and nobody got hurt, so it's all good fun, and it builds camaraderie and team spirit and everything. So, but I just thought it was a funny story to put in there about meowing in an interview.
Yeah, it's hilarious. And especially if he's getting $100 a meow, of course he's gonna put on the dog. But yeah, that's kind of goofy, but lighthearted anyway. More lighthearted news coming out of baseball this week. In the past week, there was a player that actually played for or signed with 10 different teams this past week. Gary, in spring training, he appeared in 5 games and also has his own Baseball Reference player page right now. And no, he's not a hot prospect that switched teams. He's an actor named Will Ferrell. He had a historic 10-team spring training day, all on the same day by by the fact that on Thursday he played just about every position on the field as well. So he made his way through different teams at different times, and it all took place as part of an HBO documentary on this historic event that happened in real time. So I look forward to seeing something like this on TV.
Yeah, I'm not a big Will Ferrell fan, but I have to say I saw some of the highlights on MLB, had some of the highlights, and he actually looked like he knew what he was doing. He actually came in to pitch and got a guy out on a comebacker of all things, and played all the positions. Not very long. I mean, it was some of the stuff was a little staged. You know, he went in as a catcher, and I think he was with the Giants then, and was went in and they ordered up an intentional walk, and then the next batter they took him out. So some of the stuff was a little. Questionable, I guess you could say, but he did it for charity, I believe, as well. So good for him. As I said, not a big Will Ferrell fan, but he did look like he knew what he was doing. So and it must have been a tiring day, though.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan myself of Farrell. I don't go out of my way to watch any of his movies, but yeah, his day started out with an expedition interview on Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio. Raised close to $1 million for charity, and like you said, that's a great motivation for this. But he actually was a great baseball player in high school. He hit .390 his senior year of high school. And, yeah, like you said, he looked pretty good out there on the field. Certainly got a lot of press about this, but I think he enjoyed it. He probably had a fun old time doing that.
I would imagine, and it had to be tiring just changing uniforms. You play, you go, put on the other teams. He played for, I think he hit five, as you said, 10 teams, 5 games, teams playing each other, and it's good for the game. It's good publicity, and anything that's good for the game, not counting the designated hitter, is okay by me.
He did have one detractor so far. Last couple days, this story surfaced. NFL legend John Madden blasting Will Ferrell for playing in these games. He says he hated it. It's a lack of respect. It's a lack of respect for the game and respect for what the players have to do to get where they are. So not a big fan there is NFL legend John Madden of this stunt, even though it was for charity.
Well, this has gone on for years and years. George Plimpton did it years ago. Played football for the Detroit Lions in a preseason game and wrote a book about it. He pitched an inning for forget what team, wrote a book about that. He played golf on the PGA Tour in a tournament, I believe. Wrote a book about that. So this is nothing new. Garth Brooks played a couple of years with different teams. One spring training with the Mets. I think the Padres he played with. So this goes on all the time, and I think the players enjoyed it, and that's really, the bottom line. It was for charity, and the players got a kick out of it. And if the players weren't happy about it, you would have known about it. And they enjoyed it. It didn't bother them. And look, he didn't play that. Look, he made an appearance, and that should be the bottom line about it. And John Madden is entitled to his opinion, but I think he's a little off base.
That's true. Well, we have another edition of Minor League Food that might seem kind of crazy, part 2.
Rich, it's always about food for us, I guess. But the Wilmington Blue Rocks, the minor league affiliate of the Kansas City Royals, are bringing a new hot dog to the ballpark. I would have loved to have a picture of this, but we've been dealing with gremlins again with my video program, so have to go straight with this one. But the hot dog isn't it isn't your regular hot dog. It's spiced up a little bit here. The ingredients are very simple. It's a glazed donut bun, a hot dog, lots of crispy bacon, and raspberry jelly.
Oh,
And they say it's delicious, but the concoction doesn't have a name yet. But that won't be the case for long because the Blue Rocks are taking submissions on their website, and the winner will get an opening night ticket and a chance to throw out the first pitch. And I would imagine they would get one of these delicious dishes at the ballpark as well. So glazed donut, and this is nothing new. There's been other ones put out. Krispy Kreme and Center Plate, who I guess is the catering company, have done a couple of these. And this is another one, but they did the Luther Burger or Donut Burger, and it is a hamburger or cheeseburger with one or more glazed donuts in place of the bun. So nothing new. They just changed it a little bit, stuck a hot dog in there, some bacon, and raspberry jelly, and voila, you've got the Blue Rock special, I guess we could call it, until they pick a name.
yeah, that sounds like kind of an interesting combination. I don't know if I'd want to even try it, though. But certainly interesting.
I think you have to try it once. Just one bite, just to see. The bacon and the hot dog isn't bad. It's the raspberry jelly I'm not too sure about, but
Yep, it doesn't sort of go along with it. Well, not to conflict with that story, but a Tigers rookie, James McCann, who's a catcher for the Tigers, actually hit a bird with a foul ball during a game the other day. Really tough to see. It was down the first base line, and it happened in an instant. He took a swing, and boom, you just saw a bird just fall to the ground instantly right after that. And you'd have to Google the video on the internet to see this. We can't actually play it for you here because we would get a nasty gram from the MLB. But yeah, it didn't look very good, Gary.
well, I guess it's a good thing he didn't do it in Canada because he probably would have been arrested there. Dave Winfield, of course, the famous one, hitting one in Toronto and having all kinds of legal issues with that. But hey, if they're gonna fly there, they go at their own risk.
Yeah. There was also a story about 14 years ago. Randy Johnson was pitching. Of course, he threw close to 100 miles an hour, and I saw this one on the internet as well. He wound up to throw a fastball in there, and almost as soon as he released the ball, a bird had flew across right in front of the batter, and boom, it was just an instant feathers flying all over the place. And I don't think that bird survived the damage inflicted by it, but McCann's apparently did. He did not kill that bird, according to published reports.
Well, again, you're gonna fly low. You gotta expect anything at this point.
Yes, very tough story there to take out the podcast here. But Gary, another great week in baseball. I'm looking forward to about a week from now. It starts to get a little more ramped up. It seems like they take the game in steps with spring training. But I think we'll see a lot more of the regulars start to play soon.
Well, I think this week you're going to see the cuts start after this weekend. The Mets already made some cuts. I'm sure all of the teams are going to start with their cuts this weekend. And as you say, we're going into really the 2.5, third week of games. Pitchers are starting to get to their third outings in spring training games, and it's going to pick up a little bit, as you say, Rich. More regulars, and the last guys that may have a spot are probably going to get some playing time, and they'll still pull guys out of the minor league camp and stick them in games when they need them. But yeah, now it starts to get more interesting.
Yes, it does. I meant to mention this a few shows ago, but if you'd like to send us a voicemail message, you can go to our website, MLBThisWeek.com. You can find our widget down at the bottom of the page there. Send us a voicemail. You can send it up to 90 seconds. Comment, commentary if you want us to cover something, or you like the show or dislike the show, you want to send us any kind of a message, just click on that link. Send us a voicemail message to the show. Of course, you have to have a microphone hooked up to your PC or your Mac when you send it. So we'd be interested to hear your comments. Gary, another great show. You have a great St. Paddy's Day, and we'll talk to you next week on the next edition of MLB This Week.
Good night, everybody.